What about dreams as a conduit for problem solving, creative problem solving? There have been lots of stories of people, scientists have reported great insights coming through dreams. Artists who've said, I got this idea for a novel through a dream. Why would that happen?
This is a Deirdre question.
Well, I think that, again, that dreams are very much just thinking in a different biochemical state. And when I've studied the problem solving, the Committee of Sleep book that you mentioned is mainly a collection of the anecdotes of artists using their dreams and scientists using their dreams, and some description of why that is. But I've also done research with undergraduates where they were working on a particular problem of their choice, much more mundane, down to earth than discovering the structure of benzene. And when I had them just practice looking at the problem that they had not yet solved right at bedtime, telling themselves they wanted to dream about it, in the course of a week of doing this, half of them had a dream that was about the problem, and about 1/4 of them had a dream that solved it. And that's the highest that I or anyone else has found, and I think that's because A, they're problems they needed to solve anyway, they have some personal attachment, and B, they're fairly easy problems that with enough time they would have solved awake. And in studies where you take difficult brain teasers or something where they're not as interested and they're harder, you get a lower rate of solving, but you still get some. And in that and the anecdotes, the solved problems, a dream can end up solving any kind of problem, advanced mathematics, anything, once in a while. But the solved problems really cluster in two areas. One is anything that benefits from vivid visualization. So the visual artists, more than any other artists, say that they often use their dreams in their work. They often, get a great idea from a painting from a dream. But in the sciences, it's less likely to be the very abstract science, and it's much more likely to be inventors, like my friend Paul Horowitz at Harvard designs the controls for telescopes. And it's a matter of really visualizing how to arrange the lenses or how to make a circuit for some chip. And he says that anytime he's stuck on some part of designing a telescope that he has a dream where he sees this. And these kind of visualizable inventions seem overrepresented in science. And then the other cluster besides visualization, which I think has to do with that secondary visual cortex, is the one that has to do with the primary, with our prefrontal, which is that if you're really stuck on the problem, the dreams sometimes solve it by thinking outside the box. Like if an expert is just trying and can't do it awake, that very often the reason they're stuck is because the conventional wisdom is wrong for this particular thing. They have to think in some way that they're kind of self-censoring. And this area that's stamped down is exactly the one that goes, no, that's not the way to do a geometry proof. No, that's not the way a molecule would be constructed.
Do you have favorite stories of scientific breakthroughs through dreams?
Well, the most famous one, but it illustrates both these, is Kekule and the benzene ring. He had discovered what the atoms that make up the benzene molecule were, and now scientists can just take an electron microscope and look at the molecule and see how they're arranged, but microscopes were not nearly that good in those days. So he was trying to figure out exactly how they lined up and were attached to each other. And at that time, all known molecules were some kind of straight line with right angle side chains coming off as their physical structure. And so he was taking the atoms he knew were in benzene and trying to arrange it in ways that would account for benzene's chemical properties, and nothing worked. And so he fell asleep and dreamed that he saw atoms dancing around in front of him, that the atoms began to join together. He said forming snakes, but clearly snakes made of atoms. And that finally one snake reached around and took its tail in its mouth. And he woke up realizing that benzene was a closed ring structure, which was the first known molecule that was. And that both illustrates that the dream was thinking outside the box. It could be a ring, doesn't have to be a straight line, in a way that he wasn't letting himself, but also the dream was visualizing it and more vividly than we assume he could awake. So that's one of my favorites, because it's an important discovery. It captures both those elements.